In addition, Ahabs avoid leading at home. Sometimes Ahabs will lead at work. They don't lead at church. And an Ahab, most likely, if they're going to abdicate their leadership, it's going to be at home. It's going to be at home. They don't come home. They don't enforce healthy rules to create family culture. They don't tell their wife no. They don't disagree. They don't draw healthy boundaries with the extended family. And here's what happens. If you're not a healthy person, you will allow the least healthy people to decide what your family looks like. The least healthy family will invite themselves on your vacation, on your holiday, into your budget, on your schedule, call, text, and email, impose and make demands. The point is this, somebody's going to set the culture for your home. And you, as husband and father, have been ordained and appointed of God to lead at home and to set that culture. And if you don't, the same thing will happen as Genesis 3, where Adam acted like Ahab and he was passive. Eve acted like Jezebel, became controlling, and Satan stepped up, not only making himself the head of their family, but the human family. That's why Jesus has to come to forgive sin and to disarm the demonic and to create himself as a new head over the family of believers. In addition, Ahabs avoid learning. Now, they don't avoid hearing, but they avoid learning. The difference between hearing and learning is applying and obeying. What's amazing about Ahab, he is in the presence repeatedly of Elijah the prophet. Just think about this. There's a day many years later when Jesus is on a mount and Moses and Elijah come down from heaven. And, Peter's one of the disciples. He's there. He's like, this is the best day of my whole life. Let's just build tents and let's just camp and hang out forever. Peter's like, I'm not even going home to my wife. Like, I just want to hang out with Moses and Elijah. Here is Ahab in the presence of Elijah, one of the greatest men in the history of the world, a man at the end of his life. God sends a chariot to take him straight into heaven. He doesn't even die. What does Ahab learn from Elijah? Nothing. He never asks a question. He never takes a note. He never obeys or heeds anything. If you're an Ahab, you may be in a great church, and it's a great place to hide, because people think if you're hearing, you're learning. You're not learning unless you take what you're hearing and you apply it with heeding and obeying. In addition, they avoid healthy spirituality. Ahab and Jezebel are very spiritual people. We'll get to Jezebel next week. But for Ahab, he and his wife, she uses his money. They tear down all the Bible teaching schools and churches, if we can use that language, and instead they build these spiritual places dedicated to the demon god Baal and the demonic goddess Asherah. So they're very spiritual. They have holidays, they open churches, they're very philanthropic, they're very spiritual, they're into witchcraft and they're into the signs. They're very spiritual, but they don't have healthy spirituality. They practice witchcraft, divination, they fund demonic cult ministry. And let me say this, Ahab and Jezebel love going to church. They're always they open churches, they found churches. Just because someone is spiritual doesn't mean they're spirit-filled. John tells us, test the spirits. Not every spirit comes from God. And so with an Ahab, they can be very spiritual, but they're not spirit-filled.